Misinformation, cyberbullying, and addictive algorithms. Should Canada restrict social media for kids? "25 episodes? We made it. Welcome to our season finale of Big If True Season 2. And tonight we're tackling a hot topic for young people. For months, the Government of Canada and several provinces have been mulling a social media ban for kids. Nothing has been finalized yet, but the issue has politicians, parents, and teens talking. Here are the latest numbers from Leger polling. 7 in 10 Canadians support banning social media access for kids under the age of 16, with more than 40% strongly supporting that ban. But behind those numbers is a bigger problem: how to keep teens off screens, especially when that screen is in the palm of their hands, with powerful social media platforms connecting them to the world. A 2025 investigation by The Guardian found more than half of all trending TikToks they reviewed about mental health contained misinformation. And tests conducted by NewsGuard in 2021 found that in just the first 35 minutes of scrolling, nearly 89% of participants were shown misinformation about COVID-19. And it's not just false info. Research has associated social media with anxiety and depression. One young woman went to Parliament Hill outlining concerns from 300 of her peers.
They talked about the harms they're facing. Things like cyberbullying, mental health concerns, and being exposed to things they shouldn't see.
AI chatbots are the newest draw. Pew Research finds nearly 2/3 of teens in the US use them, with one American study showing nearly 50% of adolescents reported exposure to harm, including pressure to reveal secrets, unsafe requests, inappropriate conversations, and yes, misinformation. Protecting children from online harms has become a global conversation, with Australia leading the charge late last year.
By banning social media for those under 16, we're giving children a childhood and parents more peace of mind.
But not everyone agrees with the ban.
It doesn't actually make social media safer for young people. We know there are young people who are struggling with their body image, their connection with their community, their peers. Young people who are finding themselves addicted to these dangerous algorithms. But this bill doesn't do any of that.
Still, many countries are taking notice, either implementing, passing, or reviewing online safety laws. Canada has signaled a change, but hasn't moved yet.
We have to be honest about the risks that AI poses to Canadians and the challenges that Canada faces. Deep fakes, unsafe chatbots, AI-generated disinformation are becoming more prevalent. The privacy of Canadians is under threat. The government will introduce new legislation, regulations and standards to protect your data, your privacy, your children.
While the feds work out the details, Ontario is mulling a strategy of its own, with Manitoba already announcing a provincial plan for a ban.
All the enforcement will be directed towards the big tech platforms, not towards the child, not towards the parents.
So where do you land when it comes to a ban? Tonight, we have 3 guests who bring different perspectives to the ongoing debate. But with all this happening so fast, has anyone stopped to ask, what do teens think? Well, let's bring some young people into the conversation. Chloe Cazito and Lukas are both grade 11 students. You may recognize them from social media as well. They both work as teen fact checkers at Media Smarts, a Canadian digital literacy organization. Great to have you guys here.
It's great to be here.
Amazing. Okay, Chloe, let me start with you. Should social media be banned for kids under the age of 16?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
That's definitive.
not.
Tell me why.
Yeah, I strongly don't agree with that ban, just because social media is such an incredible platform, such an incredible outlet for so many teens to not only creatively express themselves, but also just to simply highlight their differences and create like an international network between each other. So it's been so powerful, so prevalent over the last few years, and just removing that platform from teens just feels like a great injustice.
Injustice is a strong word. What do you use it for mostly?
Everything. It's my life.
It's your life?
It's my life. I love using social media. I use it just to engage with a lot of teenagers who are very like-minded as me, and I use it for communication. I use it to keep in touch and interact with their content. I love content creation that's like about advocacy, diplomacy, and just teens who are very much prominent about talking about global issues and not leaving that conversation for adults.
Lukas, how do you feel about age restrictions for people on social media?
I don't think it's the right choice, and if teens want to use social media, they can and they will. If they want to bypass age restrictions, they can and they will. A friend of mine, he was talking about how he just used his dad's ID to get Claude Premium. I believe it's an AI platform. If people want to do that, they will, and an age restriction isn't going to solve, I think, the underlying problems that this is, well, trying to solve.
Okay, so you're saying teens are going to rebel if they want to rebel. There are laws, though. I'm just going to play devil's advocate, okay? There are laws in Canada that like prevent kids from doing certain things. For example, you have to be 19 to drink in Ontario or even go to a bar. So there are certain things that kids can't do. Should there be any limitations on social media in your mind, Lukas?
I feel like the limitation should come from the corporations themselves. For example, placing restrictions on what kinds of content can be pushed to youth. I know that loads of harmful content is like constantly pushed to people my age, and that is, I feel, the problem that the government is trying to solve with an age restriction. But I don't think that just outright banning it for people, say, under 13 or under 16 or whatever it may be is going to solve that.
Chloe, how much do you use social media a day?
2 hours a day.
2 hours?
2 hours a day.
Okay, and is that because you restrict yourself, or is that because that's how much you use it?
I actively restrict myself because if I didn't, honestly, I would use it forever. I love social media. I love all the opportunities, all the open doors that it's provided me with. But I do have to restrict myself, and so I use that 2 hours very wisely, beginning to end.
Okay, and what are you doing online?
Mostly doom scrolling. In all honesty, I feel like that is what most people my age are doing as well. Whenever I have like a free moment that I can't fill with homework or by reading or by doing something productive, I tend to fill it by doom scrolling for 5 minutes, and those 5 minutes, they add up.
I mean, isn't that a bad thing?
Yeah, very much so.
Do you think you need any help to not do that?
I think I'm going to try what you're doing with the limiting my screen time.
Yeah.
You know, some studies have linked social media use to things like mental health issues, addiction to tech, body image issues. Are you guys worried about that at all, Chloe?
Of course. It's something I think about constantly when I get on social media, and when I see people making such posts that can be really, can be harmful to the people who are consuming that kind of media. And so, I mean, what I actively do, I try my best to go beyond my role as a teen fact checker and also make my own content, which is just creating awareness towards people and making sure that people are familiar with that idea that not everything you see on social media is true or it's real. And it's such a simple message, but it's a message I think you can never say it enough. Like, you have to really get it out there as much times as you can. And so I'm constantly thinking of it, but I don't think that the solution to those problems is completely disabling the app for teens of a certain age.
I know you're a teen fact checker, Lukas, but have you ever believed something online that turned out to be fake?
I mean, if I have, I probably still believe it to this day. It's so easy to find misinformation online, I think. A friend of mine, she always sends me like reels of, I think, people selling makeup, and their skin looks perfect, and she's like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. Is this makeup thing real? Like, you know this stuff. Can you fact check this? Is this real? And I look at it and I look at the account and it's not. And that, I feel like that is really harmful to people online. People like my friend who see people with like perfect skin and then they waste their money on makeup products, or they think worse of themselves for their own physical appearance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem, right? Like, your friends are seeing misinformation?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. I'm always getting sent content, and I always have to like step in and be like, whoa, guys.
What kind of misinformation do you guys see the most on your feeds? Chloe?
Deep fakes.
Okay.
Because I'm seeing a lot of content about RFK from the United States.
We cover him a lot.
Yeah, and it was just a claim that like they've already found the cure to cancer, and like they're going to start expediting it in local pharmacies, and it was completely false.
Do you feel like you're in control of what comes to you online, or do you feel like the algorithms are really targeting you?
I feel like algorithms are really talking to me. If I watch even a single video, right, and I realize it's making me, uncomfortable or upset, I might watch that again, or I might take some time to scroll through the comments, see what other people are saying, and then algorithms like to push that content that gets those interactions, that gets those views, right?
How do we keep kids safe, Chloe, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think they should just follow the fact-checking rules and definitely restrict the time that you're spending on social media if you notice that it's starting to create those overwhelming feelings.
Well, Australia may have been the first, but countries around the world are cracking down on social media use by minors. Take a look. Indonesia now has the same age restrictions as Australia. China has different rules depending on how old you are. In Brazil, you need parental consent to use social media if you're under 16. There are many proposals on the table across Europe, and several U.S. states have made changes, though there has been legal pushback. In Canada, we are still waiting to see what happens. In the meantime, let's hear different sides of the debate. Joining us online is Robin Shirk, part of the national advocacy group Unplugged Canada. Michael Karanicolis is an associate professor of law at Dalhousie University. And joining me in studio is Dr. Charlotte Moore Hepburn, the medical director of the Child Health Policy Accelerator at Toronto's Sick Kids Hospital. Great to have you all here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Robin, let me start with you. Your organization is a parent-led movement to delay smartphones and social media. Are you in favor of restricting access to social media for kids?
So what we're looking to do is raise the age of when you can make a social media account from 13 to 16 and see that age enforced. We're asking for this because we know those 36 months matter. That's when children are in developmentally sensitive years, and the harms of this are clear. So we just want them to be ready before they enter this risky environment.
So Robin, it's not an all-out ban then, it's just not making the accounts.
Correct. That's how the policy has been designed in other countries like Australia. And so if someone wants to look up a link or get access to information, they still can. What they cannot do is enter or create a profile with these social media companies. Because what that profile does is let these companies enter these kids into data contracts where their data is extracted and used and monetized in ways that they may not fully recognize.
Okay, Michael, you signed an open letter with scientists and researchers from around the world really opposing this ban. What is the problem with an approach, whether it's a ban or it is just keeping people off making their own accounts?
So I'll preface this by saying I completely agree that these technologies need to be regulated more forcefully, and I understand a lot of the concerns with regards to child development. The main concern that I would see with age verification relates to the escalating need for surveillance in order by mandating the platforms collect a significant additional amount of information about the birth dates of their users. This is going to require ID collection. This is going to require additional vectors for cyber attack, and it creates a range of privacy and security concerns over above what we already see on the internet.
And you're saying that not just for kids, but for anyone?
People frame this as something that's only going to impact young people. But obviously, if you make it such that platforms can only provide services to people that are only 16, they're going to need an effective way to know the age of everybody that they're dealing with. I think that there are significant concerns related to identity theft. There are concerns related to phishing and additional vectors for cyber attack. Generally speaking, if somebody right now on the internet tells you to turn your camera on, take a photo of yourself and show your driver's license, everybody is going to assume that that's a scam. But if we normalize that kind of behavior so that a large number of the websites that you visit start asking you to show your driver's license, it's going to create additional vectors for phishing and for malicious actors to try to steal people's identity in that way. And this is just one potential use case. We're talking about a fundamental change to the way that information is managed on the internet and the way that people engage with digital technologies.
Doctor, you work so closely with children. So where do you stand when it comes to a possible ban or having accounts not linked to kids?
I think the body of evidence that shows both an association and even a causal relationship between extensive time on social media and physical and mental health harms to children is increasing almost daily. And what the Hospital for Sick Children and the Child Health Policy Accelerator specifically are looking for is actually a comprehensive suite of services that allow the digital space to be safe for children and for the adults that care for them as well. The age ban or delay is a potential component, but it's only a component in a broader context where we've laid the necessary fundamental groundwork for the digital space to be safe for all of us. I think that delaying the age of engagement with social media likely has some benefit. But in order to do that responsibly, we need to make sure that there's an independent online regulator that's in place to implement such a program and enforce it. As well, we need to look at how safe these products are by their very design.
And Australia had that?
Australia, before they instituted their age minimum, already had in place an e-safety commissioner. So they had laid the appropriate foundation to perform some of these important policy experiments. Here in Canada, we don't have that yet.
So then I wonder if we are jumping the gun in actually making any rules, Robin.
No, I think there's a couple pieces here. One is that there are countries around the world that have already implemented some online safety rules and have gone back to add age minimums as part of that because they realized it wasn't enough. We have the benefit where we can learn from the global best in class and move to those best solutions. The other piece that I would acknowledge is age verification is one approach that can be used. But when you look at age assurance, it doesn't necessarily need your ID. Whether that's, whether you look at Australia or look at UK and how they're implementing their age checks, they allow people to estimate. So they don't know who you are. They just know that you're of an age. For example, a $0 credit card charge, or just knowing that your email or your account has existed for long enough that you're clearly of age. So we know that as this market grows, that there'll be new solutions that come online that can protect your privacy and your data and check your ages. I'm certain we can modernize our child legislation too.
So you're saying we can take small steps even if we don't have a full regulator in place?
Yeah, I'm saying I think we could do both. We can set up the commissioner to make sure we can enforce these rules while we develop these programs. It doesn't necessarily need to be sequential. When we look at age minimums specifically, that's one of the oldest tools in the public health playbook. Whether you think of driving or tobacco, we know age minimums are a key piece of this solution.
Michael, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, you hear the comparisons to driving, you hear the comparisons to drinking, you hear the comparisons to smoking. None of these things are an expressive medium, and none of these things are digital technologies. The difference between ID checks that happen when you're driving a car or buying beer is these are all transient things that happen in the real world where you show your ID and then you continue with the transaction. There's no paper trail behind that. There's no record that gets made. There's a fundamentally different way that this is going to operate in the digital world, and it's going to lead to enormous security risks. If you ask folks in the information security community, they're horrified by these proposals because there's no way to do it accurately and safely at the moment.
I think Robin wants to jump in on that.
I really do, because there's a difference between age verification and age estimation, where you actually do not identify who the person is. And so I understand there's certainly the pieces where we don't want to be creating some massive registry of IDs, but that's not what's happening right now. Right now is the data privacy nightmare. These companies are collecting massive amounts of data about our children. And we know from the Privacy Commissioner report last September, they're using that information to target our kids just with advertisements instead of enforcing their own terms and conditions.
If we don't do anything, what is your biggest fear here?
I tried not to let myself think about a do nothing option. Okay. Doing nothing is almost unimaginable. Our children are victims of what is the largest fully unregulated experiment on human development that's ever been unleashed on humanity. We require safety standards of everything that comes in contact with children, from the toys they play with to the pajamas they wear. The fact that there's no safety oversight over a product that some children use 3, 4, 6, 9 hours a day, leaving it status quo is not an option.
So should the safety oversight be put on the platforms, Michael? Like, what should we be doing to make it safer?
I'm strongly in favor of not only creating greater liability on platforms for specific harms that can be causally linked to their products, but also generally speaking to create stringent enforcement for design codes around these questions around the compulsive aspects, addictive aspects of their design, as well as the algorithmic amplification. That I think they should absolutely be responsible for that. I think the challenge and the concern that I have relates to the privacy implications. And again, the difference between age verification and age assurance, age assurance requires a lesser degree of data protection, but it's also completely ineffective. The technology does not exist to accurately determine if a user is 14 or 16 or 18. It does not exist anywhere, and it's not on the horizon, regardless of what folks that are selling those products will tell you. And so, the challenge in rolling something like this out is there's no way to do it accurately and safely.
Australia puts the onus on the platforms ultimately with major fines of tens of millions of dollars, Doctor. Can we do more to police the platforms?
I think, as has been referenced, global leaders in this space are ensuring that there's safety by design. A nice corollary or allegory would be automobile safety. You have to be 16 before you can get a license to a car. But there are also airbags, and there are also crash test standards, and there are also speed limits. So there's a comprehensive array of safety services and standards in place. Not just one keeps people safe, but it's all together. And to Michael's point, it's about the design of the product and our oversight of the product design that will make things better for all.
Thank you all for your perspective today. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Well, let's turn to your headlines this week and find out why COVID conspiracies are circulating again with the latest virus. LF Mausoleum has your reality check.
Is Hantavirus caused by COVID vaccines? Rumor has it that the virus, linked to 3 deaths this spring, is actually a side effect of the jab. The claim is based on lists like this one from a Pfizer report, tracking health problems among people who received the vaccine. Hantavirus is right there, alongside serious symptoms like foaming at the mouth and even heart failure. But does it prove these are all vaccine side effects? No. AFP points out that lists like this include anything that happened to someone after they got their dose, even if it was caused by something else. For example, check out this WHO database of reported potential side effects, which includes hantavirus, but also gunshot wound, animal bite, and struck by lightning. When it comes to side effects, that last one's a bit of a stretch. This year, some areas are facing an especially dangerous tick season, including one species that can make you allergic to meat. But it gets scarier. This viral video claims to show a helicopter dumping a box full of ticks on someone's land. And according to Joe Rogan, it's not the only one.
I don't know if this is true because I've seen many reports on it, but I'm just going to say what I saw, that farmers and ranchers are finding boxes of ticks on their property.
So what's going on here? Nothing. The story is totally unproven. Fact checkers haven't found any official reports supporting the claims. And in the original footage you see, nobody even mentions ticks at all. Tick bites are increasingly common, so it's important to protect yourself by avoiding tall grass or covering your legs while you hike. But if you're bugged by the rumor about some pesky paratroopers, just ignore it. Here's a question. What do pest control products in milk have in common? Believe it or not, they share a key ingredient. Lately, online posters have warned about cholecalciferol, a common food additive that's also used in, well, rat poison. No big surprise, people aren't happy about it. But what's it doing in the milk? Cholecalciferol is a form of vitamin D. Small amounts are added to milk to make it more nutritious, and it's perfectly safe. But in exceptionally high doses, vitamin D can be toxic. So it's a popular option for poisons targeting small animals like rodents. But we're talking huge amounts here. One toxicologist told AFP that to reach dangerous levels of vitamin D, you'd have to be drinking around 30 liters of milk per day. And I don't know about you, but I don't have enough room in my fridge. And that's your reality check. Now you're in the know.
Not sure who to trust in a world of misinformation? Come to Big If True. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. Visit our website for extra content. Email us to get your thoughts on the show.
Should there be age restrictions for children on social media? We will continue to follow developments in Canada and update you on how this could affect your kids. Well, that is officially a wrap on season 2 of Big If True. Thanks so much to our editorial team and our tech crew behind the scenes. Broadcast is a team sport, and nothing we do here is done alone. And don't forget, you can reach us on social media or email throughout the summer. I'm Molly Thomas. Thanks so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you online and next fall for season 3.